Used car sales are stalling, not from high prices, but from buyer hesitation. The average vehicle now sits 45 to 50 days on lots, up from 35 days just 2 years ago. Dealers are negotiating harder, yet deals keep falling apart. What changed? Tesla's Model 2 engineering blueprints reveal 3 design decisions targeting the exact fears that haunt used car owners: unpredictable electrical faults, aging thermal systems, and structural drift. Did Elon Musk engineer this vehicle specifically to make used cars feel obsolete before Model 2 even reaches showrooms? They're scared. Walk into any dealership and listen to the questions. What happens when this electrical system hits 80,000 miles? How do I know the cooling system won't cost me $2,000 next year? Will this thing still drive straight after 5 winters? These aren't normal tire kicker questions. These are the questions people ask when they've already seen what's coming next. The numbers tell the real story. 2 years ago, a used car deal closed in maybe 2 rounds of negotiation. Now, dealers are reporting 3, sometimes 4 rounds before the buyer just walks. Prices drop 2%, maybe 4%. Still not enough. The buyer leaves anyway. And here's the thing, they're not leaving because they can't afford it. They're leaving because something shifted in their calculation, and suddenly waiting feels smarter than settling. So what changed? It wasn't a Tesla commercial. It was leaked engineering specs making the rounds on forums, showing people that Model 2 wasn't built to be cheap. It was built to make every used car look like a gamble. And the strategy hinges on 3 specific design choices that exploit exactly where old cars break down and bleed you dry. Start with the invisible killer, electrical gremlins. You know the ones. That warning light that flickers on Tuesdays but disappears when you drive to the shop. The screen that freezes when it's cold but works fine by afternoon. The sensor that passes every diagnostic test yet still throws codes on the highway. You're not dealing with a broken part. You're dealing with a design that was doomed from the start. Here's why. Most cars today run what's called distributed architecture. That's engineer speak for, we scattered 150 tiny computers all over this vehicle and connected them with nearly 2 miles of wire. Rivian actually measured it, 1.6 miles of copper threading through their early trucks. Every connection point, every clip, every joint that holds those wires in place, each one can corrode, vibrate loose, or age differently depending on where it sits in the car. And when something goes wrong after 5 years, good luck finding which of those 1,000 connection points is the culprit. Model 2 flips this completely. Instead of spreading control units everywhere, Tesla is stacking powerful processors in just a few locations, 1 per vehicle zone. BMW made the same switch and cut 600 meters of wiring. That's not about saving weight. That's about removing 600 meters worth of things that can go wrong. When you cut the connection points by 70%, you're not just making the car lighter, you're making it diagnosable. When something fails, there aren't 150 suspects anymore. There's maybe 10. And this matters because electrical faults are the #1 reason people give up on used cars around year 4. Not because fixing them costs too much, because you can't fix them reliably. You throw $1,200 at a new computer module, problem vanishes for 3 months, then comes back. You replace connectors. It works, then doesn't, then works again. You're not maintaining a car at that point. You're funding an investigation that never ends. That's what I call the diagnostic death spiral, and it destroys used car values faster than rust. Model 2 was engineered to avoid it entirely. Fewer wires, fewer computers, fewer mysteries. So now buyers are doing the math. Pay less for a used car with 150 potential electrical failure points, or wait a few months for one with 15. When you put it that way, the used car discount starts looking pretty thin. The second attack is quieter, but just as brutal. It's hiding in the cooling system, and most buyers won't even think about it until it's draining their bank account. Traditional cars use somewhere between 12 and 20 separate valves to manage heat, coolant valves for the engine and battery, switching valves between heat exchangers, bypass valves, pressure valves, the works. Each valve has rubber seals. Each seal has an expiration date. Each joint has a clamp that will eventually lose tension. Here's the nightmare. They don't all fail at once. They fail on their own schedule. One starts leaking at 90,000 miles. Another quits at 110,000. The bypass valve sticks at 130,000. Every failure is a separate diagnosis, a separate repair, often requiring you to tear apart half the engine bay just to reach the problem. And if each valve has 3 seals and 4 clamps, you're looking at 60 seals and 80 clamps that all have to hold up for 10 years. The odds aren't great. Tesla saw this coming and built the octo valve, one rotating mechanism that does the job of 10 to 15 separate valves. It's been running in Model Y for years now, and the data's clear. Fewer thermal system failures. One motor, one set of seals, one thing to diagnose if it breaks. You've just gone from a system with dozens of potential failure points to a system with maybe 3. But the real genius isn't technical, it's psychological. People can handle a $200 repair. What freaks them out is the thought of 5 separate valve failures over 2 years, each one costing $400 just in labor to access. When you hear, this system has 15 things that can break, versus, this system has 3 things that can break, you don't need an engineering degree to know which one you'd rather own. And if Model 2 really is getting an upgraded octo valve, like the patents suggest, the complexity gap just gets wider. How do you sell a used car with 15 thermal vulnerabilities when the buyer can wait for one with 3? The third weapon is the one people feel but can't explain. It's about how cars age structurally, and it's vicious. Traditional vehicles are built from 70+ stamped parts welded together, 700 to 1,600 spot welds holding the whole thing together. Every weld has a tolerance. Every bolt has a tiny bit of play. Individually, these are microscopic, but multiply that across millions of miles of vibration and road shock, and those tolerances stack up. 0.05 millimeters at 50 connection points equals 2.5 millimeters of total shift. Doesn't sound like much until you realize that's enough to change how your suspension loads, how your doors close, how vibration travels through the chassis. This is why 7-year-old cars feel loose, even when nothing's actually broken. The squeaks aren't from bad parts, they're from geometry drift. Dozens of connection points that have shifted just enough that the whole structure doesn't feel tight anymore. You can replace bushings, torque bolts, align wheels. Doesn't matter. The car will never feel new again because the structure itself has permanently changed shape. Model 2 sidesteps this with Giga casting. The underbody is one piece of cast aluminum instead of 70 parts welded together. You've just eliminated 90% of the tolerance stack-up points. Fewer parts means fewer places where microscopic movement can accumulate. The promise here is that structural integrity holds up to 300,000 miles, while traditional cars start feeling worn out at 150,000. Buyers can feel this difference even if they don't know the engineering term for it. They just know that one car feels solid and another doesn't. And they know the loose one isn't fixable without basically rebuilding the entire vehicle. Now step back and look at what these 3 designs have in common. Zonal electrical, octo valve, Giga cast structure. None of these help a new car. They only matter after 100,000 miles. They only create value after the warranty expires and you're paying for everything yourself. Which raises the question nobody wants to ask. Did Tesla deliberately engineer Model 2 to exploit the exact failure modes that kill used car values? Look at the market size. Used cars in the US move over $900 billion a year. If Model 2 lands around $25,000 to $28,000, it sits right in the sweet spot where people shop for affordable, reliable transportation. But it's not competing on price. It's competing on predictability over 7 years, exactly the window where used cars fall apart in expensive, unpredictable ways. That's not luck, that's targeting. And here's the creepy part. It's working. Dealers are sitting on inventory, not because they're asking too much, but because buyers are choosing to wait. Not wait for lower prices, wait for Model 2. So sellers hold their prices, hoping demand comes back, while buyers stretch their timelines hoping for something better. Result? Transaction velocity collapses, but prices barely move. That's not a normal market correction. That's a confidence crisis. Buyers aren't convinced used cars are worth the risk anymore, and no amount of discounting is fixing that. Model 2 doesn't have to be cheaper than used cars to win. It just has to be predictable. Fewer electrical ghosts, fewer thermal surprises, less structural decay. Add that up over 7 years, and the used car discount evaporates. The risk premium isn't worth it anymore. Here's what really gets me. Tesla hasn't said a word about any of this. No ads about electrical reliability, no press releases about thermal system durability. This is all buried in technical specs that 99% of buyers will never read. Yet buyers are acting like they know. They're asking harder questions at dealerships, waiting longer, walking away from deals. The market's changing behavior based on information most people haven't even seen yet. That's not marketing. That's word spreading through forums and Reddit threads, technical deep dives getting shared, people doing real research and teaching each other why the old rules don't apply anymore. This kind of organic shift, driven by actual understanding instead of commercials, might be more permanent than any price war Tesla could start. Because once buyers understand the engineering advantage, you can't unconvince them. The knowledge spreads, the behavior changes, and used car dealers are left holding inventory that's aging on lots while the market quietly decides it would rather wait for what comes next. So here's what those leaked blueprints actually reveal. Tesla didn't just engineer a cheaper EV. They designed Model 2 to exploit the exact 3 failure modes: electrical complexity, thermal system wear, and structural drift that destroy used car values after 100,000 miles. That's why buyers are walking away from used car deals even when prices drop. They've done the math on 7-year ownership costs, and the numbers no longer favor used vehicles. This explains the standoff we're seeing. Dealership inventory aging 30% longer while transaction velocity collapses. It's not a price problem, it's a confidence crisis. Buyers now understand that upfront savings mean nothing if electrical gremlins and thermal failures cost you $3,000 to $5,000 in unpredictable repairs by year 5. And this is just the start. When Model 2 hits volume production in late 2026, real-world reliability data will either prove these engineering advantages or expose weaknesses Tesla hasn't anticipated. Either way, the automotive market is about to shift dramatically. If this analysis helped you understand what's really driving the used car market slowdown, hit that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts. Will Model 2's engineering actually deliver on this reliability promise? Subscribe to Tesla Zone and turn on notifications so you don't miss our deep dives into the technology reshaping transportation. We break down the engineering decisions that shift entire industries. The rules just changed. The question is, who adapts first?